Hello and good evening, everybody. I hope all of you are doing well. It has been one heck of a day, I have to admit. We have so many different client projects launching right now that it is a little bit overwhelming to kind of take it all in. And as you can tell, I am in front of my computer, shoved upstairs, trying to hide away from family as I kind of wrap up the day-ish a little bit. My last call is in the next hour. I'm tired. I definitely do not feel Zoom ready. So, but I really feel like I needed to communicate this because so many of you reached out to me after seeing my Facebook post today, and it was really all about setting some healthy boundaries. And I wasn't looking for pity and I wasn't complaining, but I think it's really important right now as people are kind of hitting their kind of Zoom max that we look at how we and what we are asking of people and our friends in our networks, right? Are you asking for help for something because you are really going to take something to fruition, or are you a proposal shopper? And here's the thing about proposal shoppers is that it does take, for those of you guys that are in service-based businesses, you know this, it takes a lot of time to draft and create proposals, right? They're custom for each person, at least ours are. And there's not a lot of things that we personally do that are out of the box. So when someone asks us to do that information, it becomes a thing. So ultimately, I had a bunch of people say, well, wow, Marissa, your stuff seems a little bit aggressive and you could be excluding an audience. And I want you to know, yes, I am excluding an audience. Audience exclusion is not something people typically talk about. But here's something that I want you to know. I am very clear about the types of communication and how I work best in environments. And actually, before I work with any client, I take the time to show them a little bit more about me. And I thought I would share with you guys because I think sometimes what ends up happening is if you go to work with a vendor or someone and you don't know how they communicate and receive information, it can be like you're not understanding one another. And so what we did is, and it's really funny how I like communication, right? I need someone to be fast paced. I need someone to conclude and have modes of action and specific directions for the next step. And the reason that I do this is because I find in the beginning when you work with people, if you communicate those things about, where your strengths are or how you work, then that saves you the headache later on. Now, this is really, really funny. Someone just said, that's a sexy disc. So you know that this is a disc and motivators profile. But really what we're looking at is, I want people to always know, like, I'm always looking for, is this credible and is this realistic? Is this credible? Is this realistic? Why does that matter? Well, if someone gives you a huge, chunk of things to do and you're unable to, you're going to say, hey, your budget is $500 a month for all-in marketing, right? Well, here's what can happen and here's what you should expect, right? Now, I don't actually take those types of clients anymore, but what I find is people have these enormous expectations, and then they, if they haven't actually put in the work into their own business, how is any other vendor going to be able to come back and if you can't articulate why you haven't done something in 10, 15, 20 years in your business, how am I supposed to come in and do it in a month? So it's this really interesting ping pong. I'd like to give a second shout out. It looks like Illumide is coming in from Bali. He is amazing. He's actually one of my business partners that's kind of doing a nomad thing overseas. He's amazing. I thought I'd give him a shout out. By the way, thanks, Rosemary, for chiming in here. And I think a lot of you guys know I'm not a super woo person, right? And actually, if you were to go deeper into my disc, you would see that like aesthetic is so low on my profile. But the reason that I believe that it's important for people to know where they're strong and how they communicate is so that, again, you can avoid problems. So to me, right, when people whine about how much work they have, I can't, like, my body rejects that, right? I'm just like, what is wrong? And it doesn't work for me. And so for those of you that maybe saw a Facebook post that I did earlier, I had kind of reached my hilt, which is people neglecting their businesses waiting forever, right, to actually take action. And then by the time they've taken action, it's all interdependent. So, for example, if I'm launching a funnel or an online event, I need, at minimum, a 4 to 5 week runway to do that, right? Because there's all of these things that have to be nailed out. And a good team can communicate their expectations with each other and what they need, right? This morning I was on a fantastic meeting, and the person that was on the meeting is, I've taken this as far as I can go, is what this person told our team. And we knew that we had to rally around to complete and finish and execute that work. And so it's that little, it is a little bit like my business love language. And it's really funny. Somebody else said it was my work love language, which I agree with. And I think all of us have to start setting healthy boundaries around expectations. For me, and I think a lot of people, I was used to going into my office every day. I was used to, I had this great office space with my colleagues, and it was such a great place. And with our children going back to school, we unintentionally are here homeschooling as well. And it's 13 and 14-year-olds. And so they're on Zoom and we're on Zoom and we're trying to negotiate. And I think everyone has to just set the bar a scotch lower, right? I'm hearing from people that are talking about being on Zooms all day for 6 hours and then, eating, spending a little bit of time with their kids, and then they're back at it. I am one of those people right now. I have been on the computer probably 12 to 14 hours a day, and this pace is not sustainable. So it brings me back to the original Facebook post. Listen, I'm not complaining about the job that I do. What I am asking for is a baseline of respect from my friends and my colleagues to make sure that we're all being respectful of one another and the roles that we play in business. And, it's very frustrating when you go out of your way to make an introduction for someone and that person doesn't even show up, or you go out of your way to try and kind of make sure that someone's sending you a referral, that you send them a beautifully customized proposal, only to see that they've taken your proposal and then hired a $5 an hour person from Upwork to try and execute it, which they won't be able to do, right? What I sell is not being a Facebook expert or Instagram expert. It is not platform specific. And so I think we get stuck into some of these ways that and I think we all feel it, right? All of us probably have one person in our circle that kind of pushes the boundaries a little bit, right? They kind of ask for a lot all the time. And so what I'm asking you to do is, do you know what your communication do's and don'ts are? Do you know when you get to that breaking point when you have pardon my language, you have no more fucks left to give, right? I think there's a really great book about that. You only have a certain amount to give every day. And I feel like my amount to give is getting lower and lower. And so, again, setting boundaries in business right now, I think really comes down to, I'm not going to do more than X amount of Zooms per day. I am happy to do maybe some phone calls, and then really giving people a grace within your organization to actually have times where there's no meetings. So we're seeing a lot of larger organizations do this, where they're saying, okay, if you guys remember when we were kids, they used to have the reading period. 1 day a week was a reading period, and everyone in the entire school would read during that period. And I remember being in elementary school, and the office staff, the principal, the teachers, everybody read at the same time. Well, let's do that in business, right? Let's all agree in our companies, hey, from X amount of time to X amount of time, there is no meetings, and really block and honor that. And, I know salespeople are going to fight me on this, but guys, there's a difference between being responsive and reactive. And I think we have to set that tone, and we have to create it, because there's no other guideline to go for. None of us have had to do this before. So we're all trying to negotiate it together. So, those are things that we're looking at. And and I think Illumide would understand this more than anybody else. The most of the time that we're talking is really early in the morning and late at night, right? So he's in Bali, he's got a team, he's got his marketing agency, he's got different things that are going on over there. And so what we're trying to make sure is, hey, we're communicating internationally, right? I work with clients that are out of the country. So it can be even harder for those of us that are doing this work because, okay, we work all day here and then we're working nighttime with our teams to make sure that they're working and they're doing effectively. And quite frankly, I think that we all have to come together to set some of these healthy boundaries because we are going to burn out. And I think our frequencies and how we're receiving information, right? Our attention spans are just getting shorter and shorter. And I actually read a statistic that said that there's been an increase in 60% of people streaming starting at 10 in the morning, which means we turn on our work laptops and all of our monitors, we've got our phone, and then maybe you have your tablet and then you're streaming, right? Like I'm on season 10 of Grey's Anatomy right now. I've been streaming that. So I think everyone is at this point where maybe we're a little streamed out, maybe we're a little zoomed out, maybe we need to really make our meetings more efficient, more concise, right? I love 20-minute meetings. Like, what did we come to discuss? What decisions are we making? And what's the next step? And even simple things like implementing a policy or a procedure where you just don't accept a meeting if there's no agenda. Oh my goodness. So as we kind of get down to the nitty-gritty, the whole point of this was to say healthy boundaries are acceptable. And I think a lot of us are putting these expectations on ourselves that we have to respond in 5 minutes or we have to do. You don't have to do any of that. And it doesn't matter whether you're an employee or an entrepreneur or an intrapreneur. You have to set communication boundaries. You proactively communicate to those in your network what you tolerate or what you don't tolerate. And what you do is just really kind of think about how you need to reformulate that. Now, it's interesting. It looks like Mario's got some really great tips here, right? So yeah, exactly. Just do a phone call. Really simple. Let's kick it and make it old school. And I think that can be really, really impactful and effective. And I think, when we go to a meeting where there's no agenda, everyone's just kind of trying to add value, right? We've all been on a call where like the call was about to end, and then the one person that's like not said anything all of a sudden jumps in, right? And I think it's great. Brian says agendaless meetings are the devil. I agree. So if you got anything out of tonight's live stream, other than the fact that I look so tired, which I am, but that's okay. We're all tired, is that we need to set the bar lower and you need to know what your communication style is, right? Like, how do you want to be communicated with? What is your game book or game plan that you can give to people to say, hey, this is the best way to communicate with me? Right? Also, here's the best way to not communicate with me. Here's what doesn't do well with me. And I think anyone that's worked with me, you know that my biggest kind of pet peeve is when people talk down to me or they use opinions as evidence, right? An opinion's great, but it's not evidence and it's not fact and it's not data. So all of these things together, I think, create this kind of perfect storm for us to really rethink and redefine how we want to work with one another. And I'll tell you, I actually implemented a new email kind of system where we're only checking email kind of 4 times a day, and I am getting so much more done. And I recognize that my inbox, like many of you, is controlling my life. And that is everyone else's agenda, not mine. And so just kind of having this process, I'm actually going to break down how I do my inbox management, because somebody saw my inbox the other day. They were like, what the heck? How do you do this? But I make the inbox and all the rules work for me so that I don't get overwhelmed. So first of all, I want to thank all of you for coming and kind of just hanging out with me a little bit. And again, favorite comment in the evening, it was the really funny comment about my disc. I think if you haven't done this type of profile, you definitely need to look at like what happens, right? Because this tells you everything about me. And if you have a compass that you can hand to a prospect or a client or someone when you're working with a team, it's like, I need explanations of things or I don't get how they work. And then I have to figure out how I can make, how does that, work together? And the most important thing that I look at is, am I in a supportive and encouraging work environment, right? Like, am I working with the highest value of products and services, right? That's a huge, huge thing for me. And when people see that, it all makes sense, right? I don't work with everybody. I work with people that can provide a supportive working environment. I work with people that do want to produce the highest quality. I work with the people that understand that building a brand is going to take their blood, sweat, and tears, but they know once they do everything in the beginning, it just runs. So with that, my friends, I hope all of you have a great night. Thank you to Illumide for showing up all the way from Bali. Thank you to Rosemary for kind of sharing your thoughts on communication style. Thanks again, Mario, for showing some support and love. And I hope all of you guys have a great night. And that's all I got to say about that. Bye.